In an unprecedented move, Vice President Kamala Harris dropped an F-bomb on stage while giving advice at the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies Summit. Let's listen.
We have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open, sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that door down.
The F-bomb came after the host asked Harris to reflect on her experience as the first Black American and South Asian American Vice President of the United States, and asked her how her heritage has informed her views and her role as a leader. Reacting on X, conservative political commentator Joey Menino wrote, quote, "Kamala just dropped the F-bomb at an event. Surprised to see her get so foul. This is how you know they're struggling with the youth vote," unquote. Meanwhile, Democrats are making fun of conservatives' outrage. Occupy Democrats tweeted, quote, "MAGA supporters clutch their pearls in faux outrage after Vice President Kamala Harris drops an F-bomb during a fiery speech, prompting thunderous applause from the audience." And they added that by speaking like a real person instead of just another politician, she was able to better connect with the crowd. Now, the speech comes as the Biden-Harris re-election campaign last week launched a $14 million ad campaign for May. That ad campaign is aimed at reaching Black, Latino, and Asian American Hawaiian and Pacific Islander voters, roughly 6 months out from Election Day. And 538's latest polling shows Kamala Harris has an approval rating of just 38%.
Ooh, so that's not good, but as we confirmed right before we started rolling here, Biden's approval ratings are right there with her at 38%. So there was a world where I think Democrats thought maybe Kamala Harris could be a boon to Joe Biden, even if it was only to shore up the Black and perhaps also South Asian vote. But that doesn't ever seem to have materialized. And I got to say, I could have warned them that that was never going to be the case with Kamala Harris. Remember, she's someone who had to drop out of the Democratic primary back in 2020 prior to her home state of California voting because she was polling behind Andrew Yang there at the time. And she never had a consolidated body of support from Black voters, largely because she was getting quite a bit of, I think, deserved flack for her criminal justice policies at a time in this country where people were very focused on the Black Lives Matter movement, the 2020 protests, and the like. Now, she had tried to sort of brand herself as a progressive prosecutor, but I wrote, I think back in 2018 or 2019 for The Intercept, about how that was purely a branding exercise, and that in fact she had defeated a much more progressive prosecutor in San Francisco when she first was running for DA. So this does seem to be a broader, holistic problem for Democrats. But what do you make of the question of whether or not there should be this reaction over her using the F-bomb in particular?
So as soon as I saw the clip of her saying it, I was like, oh, the outrage machine is going to start rumbling about this, right? Now, whether it's a good or bad thing politically, the argument that is sometimes made in Kamala Harris's defense is that because she gets so much criticism, she gets sort of behind this shield of not being authentic.
The Hillary Clinton
thing, where there's kind of scar tissue, so to speak, that builds up, and then you can't be your real self. If that's how Kamala Harris regularly talks, I'm all in favour of it. I'm not like outraged by profanity. I do think it's hilarious. Reporters in particular be like, "Oh, clutch my pearls." Someone said something profane, right?
I mean, the Republican nominee for president is currently on trial for giving hush money payments to a porn star with whom he has sexual relations. So I don't know that this is like well-grounded moral outrage coming from the right. But I do wonder if Kamala Harris is acting sort of out of type. Is this who she is? Maybe. I don't know. But it does seem like there have been a couple of these instances where she's extended herself. I'm thinking of that moment on The Breakfast Club with Charlamagne tha God. I think this was still during her presidential campaign. It might have been after she was vice president. I don't recall. But when she was asked about whether or not she ever smoked pot, and she told this story, and also I think asked about what kind of music she listened to, and she was telling the story about smoking pot and listening to a musical artist in college who wasn't out when she was in college, and so that felt kind of obviously fake and artificial and like a put upon personality and trying to engender herself to a Black audience, in that case on Charlamagne tha God's popular hip hop show. And this feels
a little bit like that.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is always that danger, right? When politicians have these moments that appear to be, you know, a slip or a hot mic moment or a moment of authenticity. Is it really that? Or are they aware of all this criticism that they're not authentic and they think, oh, well, let's do something a bit edgy, a bit like taboo. Not that profanity is that taboo, but, you know,
sure.
something to make them...
That is a good point, though.
Right.
Of all things to be taboo, no one really cares about cursing. That was kind of what was ironic about her kind of pot smoking thing as well. No one really cares about that either. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know that I need my presidential candidates or vice presidential candidates or vice presidents to be breaking cultural taboos. I don't think that's what they wanted them. I mean, the irony here is if the Biden administration, the Biden campaign wants to shore up support among young people and among Black and brown people as well. And I would argue probably also South Asian people, although I haven't seen quite the stats on their feelings about Gaza, that they should pay more attention to the issues that are motivating those groups of voters, which include Gaza, which include student debt cancellation, which include a lot of economic issues that the campaign has been getting a lot of flack for, rightly or wrongly, for years now.
Yeah.
And so to say, I'm going to go to an AAPI event and curse, instead of going to an AAPI or youth event or what have you, and simply say, maybe there needs to be a sea change on our foreign policy approach to the region. Maybe we need to be honest about how we didn't go around canceling student debt in the most kind of Supreme Court-proof fashion. Yeah. They're aiming at the wrong targets here.
Right, and there's something sort of pretty deeply patronizing about that idea, right? Because the idea is the reason Black voters or Latino voters don't like us is somehow because of kind of cultural tone as opposed to substance.
Enough.
If we just drop the G off some words, then people would vote for us, no trouble.
Exactly. Now, this also reminds me that Joe Biden is slated to give a commencement speech at Morehouse University. I don't know if you caught this story, but over the weekend, I believe it was the New York Times ran a piece asking why aren't HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, protesting Gaza the same way that predominantly historically white PWI institutions are. Now, that was an interesting question because one, students at HBCUs absolutely have been protesting for Gaza. One of the earliest viral videos coming out of the Atlanta area was a Morehouse student being tased by a police officer. I think it was on Emory's campus. And also there has been a lot of very public backlash about the intended plan of Joe Biden to go to Morehouse with viral videos about students standing up and asking their administration why this is happening, et cetera. But assuming this still goes forward, assuming this goes as planned, I think the New York Times is going to get a very clear answer. If anything happens at that event, like we've seen at so many other these commencement events so far. There was a walkout of Seinfeld's commencement address just a couple of days ago. We saw a standing ovation for the young woman from UC Berkeley who was not allowed to give her valedictorian address. So if you want to know what Black voters are really thinking, I think all eyes should be turned to what happens at this Morehouse commencement address that's coming up soon.
Yeah, and I think the White House is pretty concerned about what might happen. Now, perhaps the protests will be smaller than people expect, but the capacity for there to be a very meaningful protest at a very meaningful institution. I think I'm correct in saying it's Dr. King's alma mater, right? Yes. So, I mean, that obviously gives it even added symbolic weight in these things.
And remember, this is a DNC, this is a Democratic Party that is worried about canceling the DNC because they're worried about protests at your DNC event, at your actual convention. At a certain point, you have to say, is the goal to suppress all of the speech in America so that I can talk? Or do I have to reflect on what it is that I'm saying that's causing all of this provocation?
Right, exactly. What's actually causing the protests rather than what can we do to stem them when they happen?
Yeah. All right. Stick around. More Rising coming up next.